just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
The biggest anti-racist grifter in America just got exposed, and now she's melting down, and her tears are just delicious. Anti-racism activists get exposed for their real hypocrisy and grifting. Candace Owens gets censored by YouTube, and a TikToker bizarrely strawmans conservatives. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet and across our politics, all from a center-right, independent perspective. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and sticking around, and regardless, do hit that like button as we go, and do comment with your thoughts. I do take the time to read the comments. I'm always really curious to hear what you guys have to say, and I do pick a few to respond to in every episode. Plus, if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely read it on Monday's show. Now, up first, we've got to talk about Robin DiAngelo, who is probably the most famous, or I guess I should say infamous, anti-racism activist in America. Her book, White Fragility, was a bestseller in 2018. And actually, I believe it was a bestseller. It came out in 2018, but it was a bestseller in 2020. It skyrocketed to popularity after the death of George Floyd and kind of amid the race discourse that bubbled up at the time. But it was actually a very toxic book that basically said, all white people are inherently racist, and if you deny racist accusations, you're actually just proving your own racism. This Kafka-esque trap of sorts. But anyway, she's very prominent on the far left, on the anti-racism circuit. She's paid tens of thousands of dollars in speaking fees for all her events. Well, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, for his latest film, Am I Racist?, which is kind of a Borat-style mockumentary of the anti-racism movement, where he goes undercover and interviews all these activists, actually got Robin DiAngelo to sit down with him, which I don't know how. He must have misled her, obviously, because she never would have agreed to do it if she knew who he was. But take a look at this brief snippet from the trailer.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. And what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Matt. Hi,
Yeah.
Matt.
Nice to meet you.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
Well, she was not careful enough, because Robin DiAngelo, this big anti-racism activist, the one who wrote that book, White Fragility, she sat down with Matt Walsh undercover, and in this bizarre interview that we've only heard details about, we haven't seen yet, she gets really, really hilariously exposed. Basically, Matt Walsh asked her to directly apologize and pay reparations to his black producer, and she went along with it. But even though she had been paid $15,000 to sit for this interview, she gave the black dude $30 as his reparations. A hilariously low sum, if you ask me. Like, really, Robin? That's the best you could do? Really? And of course, she might not have had cash, but I'm sure she has Venmo or Cash App. So it's funny to me that she wasn't quite so willing to put her money where her mouth is when it comes to reparations and apologizing and making up for the deeds of evil white people who, of course, she wasn't one of them. We today, white people today, didn't do any of this stuff that was horrifically done to black people in the past. So, but she talks the talk, but when it came time to walk the walk, she gave a dude $30. Bruh. As the New York Post reports, White Fragility author Robin DiAngelo was hoodwinked into dipping into her own pocketbook to pay reparations to a black producer in podcaster Matt Walsh's upcoming documentary, Am I Racist? An undercover man-bun-wearing Walsh, 38, goaded DiAngelo into ponying up cash to his producer, Ben, to compensate for the sins of the past by first coughing up the money himself. Walsh, who had been conducting an interview with DiAngelo for a documentary project while feigning anti-racist sentiment and posing as an activist, summoned Ben after finishing up most of his questions. This is Ben, a producer on the film. I thought it would be a powerful opportunity to speak directly to a person of color and confront our racism, and also apologize for the white supremacist systems that oppress Ben, Walsh began. Bruh. Matt Walsh, I've had many criticisms of this dude over the years, but all of this is just hilarious and just chef's kiss. Gotta give him props. DiAngelo, 68, followed suit, saying, "On behalf of myself and my fellow white people, I apologize. It is not you. It is us. As long as I'm standing, I will do my best to challenge it." I just find this idea crazy, but this lady literally had a best-selling book that was pushed by corporations across America. But this idea that white people should apologize for the deeds of other people that they had nothing to do with, the people that came before us, is kind of evil. It's actually this idea of collective guilt by association, by genetics or DNA is actually evil. It's not woke. It's not progressive in any real sense. It's actually racist and evil, but that is what the modern anti-racist movement has often devolved into. Anyway, back to the story, Walsh then announced that he would pay Ben reparations if he'd accept it, prompting his producer to quip, I won't turn it down. Walsh then handed Ben a few bills from his wallet. That doesn't make up for 400 years of oppression, but it's all that I have to give, Walsh said. Taking hold of the new cash, patting his wallet, Ben, fully in on the ruse, explained he doesn't know if it's ever enough, but praised Walsh for putting in the work and acknowledging the small progress we made today. After getting Ben's blessing, DiAngelo then walked over to her pocketbook, pulled out roughly $30 and told him, "That's all the cash I have." I just love this so much. This multimillionaire woman who's made an entire fortune for herself off anti-racism and is paid $15,000 to show up for this interview, as we'll get into, gave him $30. I get maybe that's all the cash she had. Babe, I'm sure you got Venmo or Cash App, okay? You just weren't really willing to actually give him money, which is hilarious because that's part of your whole shtick, is that white people owe a debt to black people because of the actions of other white people and the experiences of other black people, which I don't agree with. So, of course, I'd never participate in. But if I did agree with it, I certainly would be willing to put my money where my mouth is. But apparently, she's not. And now, of course, Robin DiAngelo is responding to this movie's release. It's actually out in theaters today, I believe. And she did so by, one, deactivating her Twitter account, which I found hilarious because she was getting trolled so vociferously, and two, by putting out a statement on her website. Her statement reads, "Back in 2023, I was contacted by a group who claimed to be making a documentary film called Shades of Justice about efforts to address racism in the United States. They planned to interview anti-racist activists, authors, and thought leaders in service of supporting the cause of racial equity. They offered me between $10,000 to $20,000 for an interview. I said, let's meet in the middle with $15,000 and agree to participate. I have since donated that sum to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund." She added that she explained that she got hoodwinked by Matt Walsh and some, and she concluded, "This experience has reinforced for me how critically important it is to do in-depth background research before making yourself vulnerable to people you don't know or believing in sharing what you see online. They will not prevail in their efforts to stop the work for racial justice." So this is hilarious to me because, guys, it is not normal to be paid to do an interview, whether it's for a documentary or a TV show. If you're a regular contributor or have a contract or go on a show all the time or something, you might get paid. But just to do a one-off interview, it's not normal to pay people at all, let alone such huge sums. Now, of course, I understand why this production team was just really trying to get her to do it, but it is hilarious to me that she's such a dedicated anti-racist activist that she would only go speak to an anti-racist documentary, or that's what she thought it was, is supporting the movement for $15,000. Like, how committed to the cause are you really, babe? Or are you just in it to enrich yourself? Because that's sure what it looks like from the outside looking in. And it's so funny that she talks about how she was hoodwinked because there is this clip from the film where she says, "You can never be too careful." And she asks Matt who he is. And it's like, clearly you didn't care at all. You just were willing to speak with anyone who offered you a huge sum of money. So a little late on that lesson there, Robin. But it is interesting because you'd think if you were a dedicated activist, you would do a documentary. You would go speak to people no matter what. Like, if I was contacted by some progressive documentary, I would probably agree to do an interview. I might record it myself in case they deceptively edit it, but I would do it and I wouldn't expect to be paid. Obviously, she's more famous. She's a best-selling author and everything like that. But still, it doesn't exactly betray an intense dedication to the cause she's built her career around, that she's essentially a mercenary and appears only for tens of thousands of dollars being thrown at her. I've been a critic of Matt Walsh over the years. I disagree with a lot of his very strong and controversial opinions and hot takes, but this is Matt Walsh at his best. His other documentary, What is a Woman, was like this too, when he is inquisitive, when he goes undercover, when he talks to people, when he just asks questions. That's Matt Walsh at his best, not the fire and and brimstone, hyperbolic rhetoric that he often gives in his commentary, I like this Matt Walsh a lot more, where he's just asking people and letting them expose themselves for who they really are and how empty a lot of their ideas are. So I'm excited. I probably will watch this. I'm not going to go to the theaters to see it. I don't care that much, but I probably will watch it when it's out digitally online somewhere. And maybe then I'll follow up with more of my thoughts. Let me know, are you guys interested in seeing this film? What do you think about Robin DiAngelo and her clear mercenary tendencies and this anti-racist movement more broadly? Do let me know in the comments, and do hit that like button while you're at it. And now we've got to talk about Candace Owens, who's just been censored by YouTube in pretty dramatic fashion. So if you guys have followed my content for some time, you'll know that I'm actually not a big fan of Candace Owens, and I've criticized her a lot over the years. I disagree with her takes on gay people. I disagree with a lot of her rhetoric about Jewish people, and I do find some of it to be anti-Semitic. But I am a believer in free speech and open debate, so I am concerned to see that she's being heavily censored by YouTube. Candace posted on X earlier this week, "There'll be no show today or at all this week, and that's because YouTube has issued me a strike and a 1-week suspension for my sit down with Kanye. They also removed the interview as hate speech as it was mass reported by Zionists. Their tactics never change." And Candace shared a screenshot from YouTube that says, "The video Kanye West Ye cross Candace Owens has been removed from the Candace Owens YouTube channel because it violates our hate speech policies. YouTube does not allow content containing conspiratorial claims that individuals or groups are evil, corrupt, or malicious based on their protected group status. Specifically, the video in question contains claims that Jewish people control the media." So Candace has explained on her show that part of what's happening here is that there's been a coordinated campaign by people who disagree or really hate or strongly object with her criticisms of Israel and her commentary that some people consider anti-Semitic to try to get her stuff taken down and censored. So let's look at that video where she goes over that.
And so you're not going to believe this. This account called Awesome Jew started saying to people, let's start mass reporting her YouTube channel. And he said this after I dropped my Tristan Tate interview. And he showed a step-by-step guide of how to fake report my account. Here it is. You can even provided a link. You can report her YouTube channel here. Because now they're like, okay, well, we can't get rid of her. Look at this. This is incredible. But you go down and hit hate speech against a protected group. Do this to the Tristan Tate episode and we'll get it taken down. We're just going to start mass reporting her so that people can no longer listen to her show.
These disturbing tactics are apparently working because YouTube did just take down her episode with Kanye West, or aka Ye, and actually banned her from posting for a full week. I don't support this, and I don't like this impulse of trying to get someone taken down or censored because you disagree with them. I've had many disagreements with Candace Owens over the years. I've critiqued her bad ideas on many an occasion, and I do that by playing her commentary, reacting to it, explaining why I think it's wrong, why it's bad or even ignorant or hateful, and then disagreeing with her and challenging her in the marketplace of ideas. But these kinds of coordinated campaigns to try to shut down somebody because you don't like what they're saying, it represents an illiberal impulse that I'm just not going to be on board with. And it also, I think, represents an incapability or an unwillingness to defend your ideas openly and have debates and a lack of confidence that you'll be able to win them. And I really don't like that or respect that. Now, YouTube is a private company that can take down Candace Owens' videos if they want. It's their legal right to do so. They can delete her whole channel if they want. And it's their platform, so ultimately they do have the ability to do that. But I strongly do object to this decision that they're making, just because I do believe in that open atmosphere of debate and criticism, and also because there's a huge consistency and fairness issue here. I listened to the interview with Ye, aka Kanye West, and he says some absolutely crazy stuff. And he does go on some rants about the Jews controlling the media and other stuff that I think is vastly overstated and, yes, anti-Semitic. Kanye has gone anti-Semitic. There's no doubt of that in my mind. But if we're being honest, interviewing Kanye West is still an incredibly noteworthy figure, and I strongly believe that media accounts and personalities and journalists and commentators should be able to interview people, even frickin' ISIS members or the Taliban or something like that and air those ideas to the public, because what those people think and believe is newsworthy and it is important. And that shouldn't be taken down just because things are offensive or might hurt someone's feelings. I strongly reject that. I really don't think the American people or Jews or anybody else are so thin-skinned that they need to be shielded from people saying upsetting and hateful things, because even shutting that down, even censoring that, doesn't make those ideas go away. They still exist. They're still out there. They're still spreading. Someone like Kanye is still massively influential, and just shutting them down doesn't make that go away. And if anything, it actually plays into their conspiracy theories and affirms their beliefs and makes them look right, even when they're really not. Oh, look, see, we told you they're going to take this down because they don't like the dangerous truths we're telling. Actually, let them say their piece and then fact check it and debunk it and point out where it's wrong. But when you play into this narrative that, oh, they won't let us speak because we're dangerous truth tellers, you're actually making them, you're locking in their base even harder and confirming their biases. And then again, like I mentioned, there's a huge consistency problem here, because YouTube is saying, well, we took this down because you're not allowed to demonize groups of people or spread conspiracy theories about groups of people. Well, that's news to most of woke YouTube, because I could go and I could find you video after video with countless views from super popular users demonizing all men, drawing conclusions about all men, casting aspersions about all men being violent, predators, all men are guilty, it is all men, all this stuff. You're allowed to denigrate some groups. I could find you the same thing from anti-racist woke types talking about white people, saying the most insane things. And to be clear, I don't want those people censored either, but I do want consistency and fairness. And that's not something you see in YouTube or many of the other tech giants as enforcement of their standards and their guidelines and these other kinds of things. What you often see is vastly uneven and unequal enforcement, which is really unfair and problematic. It also doesn't make sense, because I do think that Ye is anti-Semitic, and a lot of what he said in this interview is conspiratorial, but there's lots of hateful stuff all over YouTube. I could go find you massively popular videos that are deeply homophobic, besmirching all gay people, smearing all gay people. There's videos out there saying horrific things about me that YouTube wouldn't take down and maybe shouldn't take down. I don't know. But there's just this insane degree of inconsistency that in this case, Candace Owens and Ye have to be silenced, but so many other people are allowed to violate these policies and it's never enforced. And so many other groups are allowed to be demonized. I just don't get that double standard, and I think it really should be all or nothing. I'd prefer to just have an open atmosphere and let all the voices be heard. But if you're going to enforce standards, at least do so evenly. At least don't just do so when a lot of people complain about a certain person, because then you really are empowering Twitter mobs and online outrage mobs. And that's not who we want determining the bounds of discourse. I have no love lost for Candace Owens. I don't think a whole lot of her as a thinker or an analyst. But I don't support shutting people down just because some of the things they say offend people or upset people. I support open debate and discourse, and I'm not happy to see Candace Owens getting censored like this by YouTube. I'm really not. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And now it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slug slug.
Today, this TikToker's little skit is incredibly condescending towards conservatives, building up a straw man, essentially suggesting that people who aren't progressive just don't care about helping people. Let's take a look at this video and try not to pull your hair out too much, but it is kind of maddening stuff. The caption here is, when you have political positions based around helping others, and I'm already rolling my eyes so hard.
Medicare for all is socialism, so I don't really want to.
I don't know, man. I think it's a good thing that people should be able to afford medical care.
I also think free lunch in the schools is an abomination.
Oh, well, I don't know, man. I think it's a good thing that, kids get to eat.
Well, another issue is that these are the same people that think college should be affordable.
Can't really agree with you there, man. I gotta say that I think it's important to get an education that's affordable. People should be able to go to school without having to worry about it.
These kids don't even learn there. They go there and protest things happening in the Middle East that they don't understand.
That's where I got to disagree with you there. I think ethnic cleansing and genocide are bad.
And let's not even talk about like the gay agenda that goes on there. Because hang on, wait. No, I think it's important. What is your opinion on the gay agenda that's pushed in college?
Okay.
I don't have an issue with gay
I don't
people.
think gay
I'm
marriage
just
is a
saying
bad
that
thing, actually.
I think it should be a state issue.
I really
on
feel
the state and local level.
Meeting,
I don't think the federal
eye to eye
government
on this.
has
I think it's a pretty uncontroversial thing I'm suggesting.
right,
here.
but it's a slippery slope because one day you're supporting gay marriage.
No,
and then
I don't. I don't think that's right either.
Well, in fairness, I don't think you know what you're talking about, and I don't think you are educated on the idiosyncrasies and the complexities of.
So this video was massively popular on TikTok with 187,000 likes, and the comments were really something. One person wrote, "How will these things be paid for? Money is made up, and we could just decide things don't cost that much." Bruh, that is genuinely terrifying. That thousands of people liked that comment. Babe, that would literally turn us into Zimbabwe or Venezuela. This has been tried, and it does not work. Another person says, "Do you really want less money?" I like quotes is what a conservative would say. And it said, yeah, if it helps folks, then absolutely, yeah. Easiest answer. You know you're free to donate your money now, right? To the government. They accept donations or to charities that help people. The question is whether people should have more of their money and their resources confiscated by force to be funneled into ineffective government programs. But you're free to help people, and you should. Many people do, but it's not that no one else wants to help people. Gosh. Another person said, "It's not politics at that point. It's values and character." Bruh. Oh my God. This whole thing makes me want to roll my eyes so hard. Because, so the argument here is that conservatives or Republicans or anybody who's not, on board with government control of our healthcare system via Medicare for all doesn't want affordable healthcare. No, we all want affordable healthcare. We have different ideas about the best policy solutions that get us to that point, okay? And we don't think that the government running a healthcare system is the solution. You'd have to more than double taxes to pay for it. And that's the thing. You're not making it more affordable. You're making it cost a lot, but just be paid through the taxes. So we can have that debate and discussion, but it's not like one, it's just magically affordable for everyone, and the other one is an expensive hellscape. That's not actually how it works. So it's just everyone wants good healthcare. We have different ideas about how to get there. So to say conservatives don't care about people affording healthcare, same thing with education. Conservatives or people on the right more broadly want affordable higher education. We have different ideas about how to get there, and we think that people should pay for it themselves because it is an investment that earns you $1 million more over your lifetime. So I think it's fair to have an adult pay their way themselves. It is way too expensive, and that's because of a lot of things, including massive federal subsidies, including huge administrative bloat that we should be working on to make it more affordable. I agree there, but it's not that we don't care about affordable education just because we don't want socialized. And we don't want it all paid for by taxes. Everyone else has to pay for your degree in fine arts and gender studies. Just because we disagree with that doesn't mean we don't care about freaking affordable education. It's a total straw man. And don't get me started on the free lunch in schools thing. Literally no one, 0 people, or maybe there's one out there somewhere. No one disagrees that schools should have free lunch programs for the needy. Right? Everywhere has that. And nobody's trying to take that away or defeat it or get rid of it. The debate that's happening in some places is that progressives and Democrats want to pass laws where every kid gets free school lunch, free as in paid for by the taxes and the school. I personally am not a huge fan of that because I think if you're a middle class or an upper class parent, you should pay for your own kid's lunch. Like, I support having those programs for the needy, but I don't see any reason why I should have to pay for my millionaire neighbor's kids to eat at school. Like, what? I wouldn't be paying for them to eat dinner. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. So that's the only debate that's happening, is whether it should be a universal thing or just for the needy. But literally no one is saying that poor kids shouldn't get food at school. Nobody. So again, it's just They're not even engaging in any semblance of good faith with what the other side believes. And that's just so frustrating, because this is why we're so divided and hopelessly divided as a country, because people talk past each other and they imagine that the other side believes stuff they don't actually believe. People on the right do this to the average Democrat when they say they're all just Marxist communists who love abortion or whatever. The reality is much more nuanced than that. But this is what the kind of thing you see on TikTok tends to be in this direction of just hopelessly strawmanning conservatives, Republicans, independents, moderates, anybody who's not a hardcore progressive, as if we literally want kids to starve, don't care that people have health insurance, don't want people to be able to get educated. Like, the list goes on. It's just not that simple. And it's just such a condescending and maddening thing to be spreading to millions of impressionable minds on the internet. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think of that video. Did it make you want to pull your hair out as much as it did for me? Let me know in the comments, and do hit that like button to reward my suffering, because that was a painful watch. It really was. And now I'll wrap up today's show by reading a few of your comments from yesterday's episode. One person wrote, "If fact checkers said the grass was green, I'd feel the need to look at my yard." Yeah, it is a little sad how biased fact checkers have become, like PolitiFact, like Snopes. Gosh, I wish we could just have neutral fact checkers. I mean, if I end up doing it, and I got a lot of positive feedback about my idea to do, I would probably do a fact checking segment where it's like things on the internet that are false, to make it a little different than from what everyone else does. And I might do it because it seems like a lot of you guys are interested in that. And I genuinely would just point out if it's true or false, regardless of what side it's on. So another person writes, "I live 20 minutes south of Seattle, and I visited Capitol Hill when they took it over. It was horrific, and I don't think anybody's been prosecuted." A few people were, I do believe. I was reading about this yesterday for that segment, but a lot of the lawlessness did go unpunished. And if I was a Seattle resident, I would literally never forgive the city officials who let 6 blocks be taken over by literal anarchists with a warlord and establish a zone where the police and ambulances couldn't get through, and city officials just sat on their hands for weeks on end. It's madness. I really can't believe that actually happened, but people forget how crazy 2020 was. What a frickin' year, guys. Another person writes, "Why do some people like to make excuses, not reasons, excuses for criminals like this?" Referring to the TikTok trend of the people doing check fraud to chase. They said, "Why are they the victims of their own stupid decisions? Everyone should know that check fraud is wrong and illegal." Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the need. It's almost like so condescending to those people. Well, those poor people or those ethnic minorities, they didn't know any better. Actually, I think they did. I don't think ethnic minorities or poor people are stupid. Just so I can't relate to this worldview where criminals are victims. I just can't. Another person says, "Please, Brad, please give us Fact Checking Friday. That genuinely sounds like fun and a good way to help blur the line that's been drawn by the left versus the right." I'll keep it in mind. I'm going to talk to some people about the idea over the weekend, maybe. Another person said, "Hey, longtime fan. I absolutely love your take on politics, in particular society, and of course, Delulus." LOL, I think you had a great idea in this episode. A fact check series on each candidate would be greatly appreciated. You have a wide range of followers who would greatly appreciate it, and keep up the phenomenal work. I'm also deeply sorry for your recent loss. I hope in time you heal. Well, thank you so much for your support and the kind comment. I'm working on it. I did randomly break down in tears and start crying yesterday. Partly, yeah, it's been a lot, but I'm sure it will get easier. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and tuning in. Please do subscribe if you haven't yet. Do hit that like button before you go. Comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments, so I'm always curious to hear what you guys have to say. And if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely respond to it on Monday's episode. And with that, have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.